Welcome to the Soul Traveler Podcast, an exploration of conscious living with your host, Jennifer Mitchell of The Soul Experience. Join Jennifer as she explores the quantum realms of the subconscious mind and all aspects of spirituality. Driven by curiosity and a thirst for knowledge, topics will stretch the boundaries of your imagination and revive your mind, body, and soul.
Hello, soul travelers, and welcome back to another episode. I am your host, Jennifer Mitchell. Today, I am joined by the incredible Morgan Rockwell, who is an Akashic Records practitioner and spiritual coach. Welcome to the show, Morgan. How are you?
I'm good. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's such a pleasure to chat with you. I'm so excited to dive in and hear about the Akashic Records and your take on everything spiritual, and working with soulmates sounds so intriguing. I'd love if you could start off by telling us a little bit about who you are and how did you get started doing this type of work?
Sure, absolutely. It's kind of a long, interesting journey, but I've always had energetic gifts, and I just didn't really know what they were or how to do anything with them since I was little. But one of my strongest gifts is always having a knowing. And this knowing has kind of led me down maybe the path less traveled in sort of search of a way to try and be in service and follow my calling and all these things. So through different life circumstances, I ended up in integrative medicine. So I have a background in Chinese medicine, integrative medicine, which I really loved and enjoyed, and was able to kind of work on some of my spiritual gifts and work them into a practice pretty seamlessly. But as my life took me on a completely different adventure, and I ended up over here in Portugal where my boys were born, where I'm no longer practicing Chinese medicine, I just really felt this pull to explore further these gifts that I've always had. And that led me down the path of the records. And working in the records have been just so life-changing and incredible. As we were talking about before the show, you do hypnosis and you're able to travel and all of these things. And it's the same from the records. When you're in somebody's subconscious and holding this space for them to explore, it's just doors wide open. So it's been just a really magical adventure getting here.
So amazing. Now, do you integrate at all any of your Chinese medicine practices in with your work at all? Do those two ever cross paths, or do you just completely work only in the Akashic Records?
Cross paths a little bit in terms of explanation, typically. So when I really want to make something tangible, sometimes the subconscious is really hard to explain, or these kind of esoteric concepts. So talking about neuroplasticity, talking about different scientific studies that affect the brain, pulling from psychology and things like that can come in. People do often want to do the energetic scan of the body as well. And so my background in Chinese medicine really can come in and help understand where the sort of emotional or energetic issue is happening in their body to the physical, and give them some actual practical tips to go about and do, like some supplements or particular things they can do for whatever is ailing them within their body. So yeah, there's a small crossover.
That's really interesting. So when you do an energetic scan of the body, it kind of sounds something similar to what I do, maybe possibly too. When my clients are under hypnosis and I'm talking directly to that subconscious mind, and it's talking back, I have that two-way dialogue. One of the things that I do is I ask the subconscious mind to scan the body of the client from head to toe, looking at any trapped emotions, chakras, liver, all the organs, kidneys, and it will find things that need clearing and healing. And subconscious mind is such a powerful, incredible tool for self-healing. A lot of people don't understand, I don't think, the power of that. So from your aspect, when you're doing an energetic scan, like, what is the difference maybe from what I just described to like how you do that with your clients?
Yeah, so it's a little bit different, but it's also the same. So one of my gifts is I can look through the energy and have it come out. But again, it's the subconscious.
Yeah.
And what I love is, like, the subconscious can be such an incredible place, but it can be that place where we sweep things under the rug, right? We can put it in a closet. We can lock it away. Everyone has some sort of like chamber they put things in.
Yes.
So oftentimes people show up in a reading and they're saying, gosh, I'm having all these symptoms. By the way, I found out I have this small tumor in this part of my brain. Can you look at that and see? And I'll immediately, the subconscious will show me, okay, it's something that happened to you when you're 3 or 4, your inner child, picked up this and this and this. And so then you can go down that road. And where it's completely not a replacement for medical intervention, it is a whole nother chapter of action steps that people can take and feel like they have some control over what's happening. So yeah, it's that subconscious just coming forward in different ways.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about maybe people who are hesitant to go there. I find that sometimes in my work, as soon as I mention like subconscious or something, like people seem to like they get like a little bit,
Yeah.
they want to back off. Like there's something there that they know is there, but they maybe don't want to address. So how do you deal with people who are hesitant or even skepticism, with the type of work? And what do you
Yeah.
say to those types of people?
Oh yeah, there's lots of skepticism, and that's why I love talking about the bring in some of the scientific studies and things that they're really looking at that way. Hesitancy is so so big, and this is where it's so crucial to work with somebody you absolutely trust, because we can be guided to those deeper places that once we're down there, they're not as scary as we think. But the path down there and the unknown is terrifying for a lot of people, because what typically is buried is something that happened to us when we were under the age of 10. And so our childlike mind really attached a lot of beliefs or fears or emotions about it that an adult mind might be able to process through a little bit more. So it's almost like this instinctual reaction of emotion. So if you're really, really nervous to go under there, it's just really important to work with somebody who can help you go layer by layer. And that's the other thing I don't know about in your work, but the subconscious will always bring up what is the next layer ready to come off. And knowing that, you're like, okay, I can do this in a way that I'm going to stay safe. Yeah, I might be scared, but I can do it scared because this is the thing that's coming up. I got this.
Yeah. And actually, you hit the nail right on the head, Morgan. I always tell that to my clients who maybe are hesitant as well, is your subconscious mind's in the driver's seat, right? And it wants to take care of you. It loves you, and it's your partner in this life. It is here to help you. It's never going to bring forward anything that is going to mentally harm you or that you are not ready to handle. So when my types of sessions, it'll go through, and specifically the client under hypnosis is pulling things out and picking things, and we're visiting things that their subconscious higher self is guiding us to address. And so I think that people do find some comfort in that, and it's the truth. Your higher self isn't going to harm you. It's not out to get you. So let's talk about multiple timelines. You do mention multiple timelines. So what does that mean in your type of work when you're talking about multiple timelines?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to give the definition based off something that you said, like your subconscious is in the driver's seat, right? Well, in your subconscious, if we go back to that analogy I made before, things can be hidden in there. Wounds can be in your subconscious. We hold these core wounds. So it depends if you are actively getting into your subconscious mind, reprogramming beliefs, and that's in the driver's seat. That can create a specific timeline, right? You're really repatterning, you're making the work, things are shifting, you're manifesting, you're in a flow. Yet, if something triggers you and it really brings up a wound, and that wound kind of takes over and drives, you might have a multiple timeline of, God, everything just feels so hard. I feel like I'm struggling all the time. I do this and this, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back type of thing. Those looping situations that we have in our life is one way that we can explain timelines. There's a lot more in depth to that, but I think this is the most tangible thing to grab onto when you're like, gosh, some of my clients are like, I've got everything going on. I've got great friends. I have a great job. I make good money, but my love life is just a disaster. What is going on? And you can see the flow and the ease in 1, 2, 3, 4 categories. And one side, it's like everything's come to a screeching halt. So by that, you can have these multiple timelines.
So you mentioned love life, and I know you work a lot with soulmates. Do you think that everybody has a soulmate?
Yeah, so this is super funny. This is something that has keeping coming forward. And I say funny in an ironic sense because soulmate was never a word that really, really like dug onto me that like, yes, this is what it is. But what has been revealed is really cool because it's like the soulmate gets the attention for people to really look and turn things over and turn inward and find it's all about this self-love, right? The more magnetic you have this self-love, the more you're healing those subconscious wounds, the more you magnetize somebody who seems like the right and perfect person. That being said, we as souls, we have all of these lessons we want to meet. The universe is always responding to us. So if we're like, you know what, I really want a partner, and we create that list, well, how much our subconscious is putting out there, that person is going to show up. We do have contracts and lessons and souls that like to come in and repeat these things with us. But we get to create, we get to be in the driver's seat of who our soulmate truly is based on how much we align with our internal values, our core values, and our authentic self. So the short answer is yes, we all have a soulmate, but it's not something that's like pre-programmed in the stars. Because when we fall into that notion that, oh my gosh, it was just meant to be, this person is my soulmate, so therefore it meant to be, we step out of our power and give it up to something outside of us, leaving us out of this control of how the relationship goes. Is it still serving me? Is it in alignment with me? It takes us right out of that driver's seat.
Interesting. So like when you are looking into the records now, can you see a person's soulmate, or you can't?
Yes.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And so, a lot of people come to me and they'll give me like, oh, I met this person and I met this person. And it's not the person I see in their orbit. It's not the person I see where there's a possibility. And what's really been interesting to track is where people go with this information. Some people are like, oh, great, I'll hold out for the one that feels like the most magic and spark, meaning they'll do their work in the meantime. And other people, they will hold on to the one that they have, but they don't quite have them all the way, but it's the one they want. And so it just shows you again the reflection of what that subconscious is doing. But I often see multiple potential soulmates for people.
So people who never quote unquote find a soulmate, is it maybe because their soulmate did cross their path and then the timelines were out of sync? Or is there such a thing that someone who just doesn't have a soulmate? Have you ever come across that?
I've not come across anybody that has not had a soulmate. Does not mean that does not exist, but from what I see, it's typically, and it could be something that happened in another life or something the soul decided at a certain point in another existence of like, I am done with this love shit. Like, I'm done with it. I don't want to have another partner, you know? And so it can have like this sort of archaic, we'll call it like a vow, right? Somebody could take a vow that says they're never doing that ever again. Well, we don't have to be held by that. That can come up in the subconscious perhaps, or through a reading or something, and we can get rid of that so that person can have. The other thing I see is somebody who has some pretty deep abandonment wounds or something where they felt so unsafe and or unseen in the capacity of love that they just don't want to go there again. So their subconscious mind, no matter what they're consciously trying to manifest, will never allow them to bring in somebody until they work on that deeper wound. And that's what I see more often.
That makes a lot of sense. I recently had another Akashic record reader on, and she talked a lot about the Akashic realm and the difference between the records and the Akashic realm. What is your perspective on that? Is there a difference? What is the Akashic realm?
So, I mean, I guess you can categorically say they're different. If I'm reading someone's records, we're always within the realm. The records are held within the realm from my experience. And so I can just give you some information from the records. We can have this reading. It does pull that energy forward a little bit. If I were to take somebody through a healing where, say, we really got to what a core wound is and they want to kind of start working on some of that subconscious patterning and repatterning, that's where we can go into various places into the realm of the Akashic realm. And so that is where more of that healing and transformation can take place. But again, anytime I'm in someone's records and reading for them, their guardians, masters, teachers, and loved ones are loving on them. They're shifting energy. They're allowing layers to come off just because their records are open and they're ready to hear these things. So they're getting a little energetic TLC while just in their records.
I'm curious more about the Akashic realm because it sounds very similar to where the subconscious mind goes in my session. You mentioned loved ones, guides, and guardians. We often will encounter that. It seems to be the place where lives are assigned. I've come across people receiving their next assignments and lives are reviewed. Does that sound like everything that you've encountered or have seen in
100%. You can get really specific with where you go in the realm.
Mhm.
I've encountered different star seeds, different galaxies, different planets, like you were talking about before. Loved ones can come in from the realm,
Yeah.
and this is all like approved by their guardians of these people's records. But oftentimes somebody who has passed will come through with a message. Ancestors are knocking on everyone's records right now to come through and assist them in healing. They're really, really available at this moment in time. Just in it from an energetic standpoint, they're really here to help us move forward as a collective. So yeah, you can encounter all of these things in the realm. So it really takes somebody who's worked with it in a really intimate fashion to have that trust that where they're taking you is where your client needs to go to get what they need. And it never ceases to amaze me, the places that we end up. I'm sure you've experienced the same thing in your work where you're just like, okay, how did we get here? I'm going with it.
Yes, the
Yeah.
coolest things happen. I've come
Yeah.
across recently several times now this place called, I guess I'm just gonna label it as the terminal. I've had several clients go there
Mhm.
where they say there's like these, it seems almost like an airport or a train station, but there's these different
Yeah.
gateways to all these different realms, and there's species and beings. My last client that
Yeah.
was there was in, like, a reptilian form. I said,
Yeah.
"Look down and tell me what you see," and she got a little panicked. She's like, "Oh my, how? I
Yeah.
have a webbed feet." And she was a bit shocked, and I'm like, "Where are we
Yeah.
going?" And she says, "I'm going to another realm." And I said, "Well, okay, well, how do we get there?" And she's like, "There's all these gateways." And so I've encountered that,
Mhm.
and very, very frequently, the watchers, they always seem to have refer to themselves as the watchers come through, which I think is the same as
Yeah.
the elders, will come through. And that is really interesting because we get a lot of channeled messages for humanity when we connect with the
Mhm.
watchers. It's usually general advice about what's going on in the planet right now,
Mhm.
like things that humanity needs to know. So a lot of information will come through in that space as well. And I know that the records are heavily guarded, I've heard. And so not anybody is able to access them. The records, we can access our own record, is my
Mhm.
understanding. I'm not an Akashic record reader myself. And my clients, they do pull information about their past, present, future lives
Mhm.
from their own records under hypnosis.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. Well,
It is, it's super fascinating. Yeah, and I love that people like, it's accessible to all of us, right? We
mhm.
all have access to our own records, even though they're heavily guarded. I think that is one of the most beautiful things that they're ours. We get to have that information, and there are many ways into it, right? Going with a practitioner, going through hypnosis, it's really beautiful.
And you do past life readings as well? Do past lives often come up in when you're doing your readings with clients?
They do, especially in terms of, like, relationship patterns in love.
Mm,
Sometimes these things just don't come from this lifetime, and
yeah.
it may not even be ours. They can come down so you can look down the ancestral line about how this came in, or is this something your soul experienced? And again, there are layers, so it might not just be like, "Oh, this is my relationship pattern, it must be from a past life." Well, maybe an aspect of it was, and another aspect came from some programming that is came through your ancestors, and maybe another part of it came through some shame you picked up over something you did or saw or experienced.
Yeah. When you talk about past lives, is there something that you find most common that is impacting your current life now? Like related to a past life, whether it's, something manifesting in the body or illness, something like that?
Mhm. Normally, what I have seen, I'm like looking back through my
Yeah.
catalog as you're asking me. It's generally people who the pattern I see is people who cannot quite trust themselves to move forward because
Mm,
something that has happened in a past life have they were sort of persecuted for who they were. And so this aspect of them is still frozen. And it really, really speaks to people feeling like they're not good enough, or maybe they did the wrong thing. It's like really that deep trust muscle that somehow has been impacted that just doesn't allow them. They can be like, yeah, this is really good, but I can't put my finger on why it doesn't feel 100% right, type of things. And the more that they can bring these scattered aspects back to themselves, feeling more whole, they're able to have more trust and discernment and move forward in ways that they truly know. Like every single person I've ever done a reading for asked me what their soul's purpose, and every single one of them knows without me validating. But it's like they need that validation to be like, oh, I knew it. And so I really see that connected to past lives. Like we're so outside of ourselves to even trust ourselves to move forward in any direction that we freeze. And this is how I see it mostly impacting people.
Yeah. That's the number one question I get as well, that people want to ask their subconscious mind. What is their life purpose? And I won't say on the show because I don't want to influence anyone who might have a session with one of us. But from my perspective, everyone always has the exact same life purpose. We can talk about that offline. I'm sure it's the same answer that you get. But it's really interesting that we're all here for the same reason. And again, that also shows for me is that we are like this collective consciousness, right? We all have the same
Yes.
mission, the same purpose. We're just going about it different ways here in this lifetime. Something else that was
And this is the everyone has the same answer. We go about it the different way. This is an area where I love to jump in and work because this is where people lean into that self-love. They lean into recognizing who they are. They get to do it in their way. They get to be really connected to the authentic way that their soul likes to sing, and then they carry it forward.
Oh, that's beautiful. The way that their soul likes to sing. I like that. Something that you touched on earlier, you mentioned about not wanting to move forward. I encounter that so much in my sessions, and it always manifests as pain in the knees, whether it's arthritis or someone's had multiple knee surgeries and they can't extend the knee. And every time we ask the subconscious mind, that's always the root cause. It's because they're not moving forward. And so the body is so interesting, the way that it is connected to our emotions and our past, and it likes to try to communicate to us. So yeah, I thought that was interesting that you mentioned that because that's probably one of the number one things I encounter.
I love that. And I love that you see it through an energetic session. That is something I used to see in my acupuncture sessions. And so I would dig and it would turn out that they weren't moving forward. So it was like looking at it the other way around. And so now I see it through the energetic. They're not moving forward, but not necessarily presenting as pain in the knees just because I'm looking in a different direction. But I love the connection's always there. I saw that exact same pattern.
Yeah. I'd love to dive in a little bit more about your session. So if you can walk us through the timeline, like if someone is interested in booking a session with you, what can they expect when they come to you? Like what is the itinerary per se for a session?
Yeah. My place I love to start is just to get a reading. And because people have questions they want answered to, but what is so beautiful, and this works really great for skeptics also because they get to experience it. One of the gifts that I have is I really can help people bring like their core wound forward in a way that they can say, oh, wow, this is really impacting me. One of the things I hear from a lot of my clients is like, I've been through all of these wounds and scenes before, never like this. And it's just getting to that deeper layer. And so through readings, these really powerful 2 or 3 things can come forward that just carry a lot of impact for the way that they want their life to change. And from there, they usually step into working in a coaching capacity with me so we can go in and do those subconscious sessions and really start pulling apart those, whatever, cleaning up the subconscious in a way that will allow them to either manifest what they want or move forward if they want, attract their soulmate, unblock money, like whatever it's coming through for them.
I love transformation stories. What is one of your favorite client transformation stories that come out from one of your sessions or coaching packages?
Yeah, one of the last clients I was working with, she was just so amazing. She's just really she's on her path and she's doing all these things and things would like flow and they would just stop. And in terms of her business, she was just like at the moment of like giving up. She was so frustrated. This launch didn't happen. She was just like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And so we had a session together and I was able to like give her some information and we made some really big shifts to where we just adjusted her timeline for doing her actual launch by like 6 weeks so we could do X, Y, and Z. She ended up with the biggest launch of her business to date.
Love
and
that.
She just felt like on top of the world. And that, it was kind of like an unexpected outcome, but it was the work we did was so profound for her to just unlock that part of her to take her to that next level of really growing her self-love and really growing her self-worth so that business boom could come in.
That's amazing. I love hearing those success stories.
I know, me too.
Where can people find you online? Like, where do you hang out on your social media, your website, where if somebody wants to work with you?
Yes. So I'm on morganrockwell.com. That's just Morgan. You can check my last name in the show notes. I'm on Facebook as Morgan Rockwell 111 and the same handle on Instagram.
Beautiful. And what are you working on next? Do you have any projects or anything that upcoming that you're working on next?
I do.
Ooh.
I'm very excited. I'm actually shifting things around. I know this is going out. This will be out at the beginning of the year, so things will be just around the corner coming out. But I'm really creating this sacred container for women to come into and really explore what self-love is on a really deep level so that they can create these relationships and, lives they absolutely dream.
That's so beautiful. I'm excited for you. I know that that's going to be such an amazing venture, and people are going to find so much value in that. And I've learned so much just chatting with you today. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show today, Morgan.
Thank you. It's been such a wonderful conversation.
Yes. Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye.
This podcast is brought to you by The Soul Experience, Quantum Healing Hypnosis. Are you ready to embark on an inward journey of quantum healing? Quantum healing hypnosis is the most profound method of inner work and self-healing someone can do while on a spiritual path. In a single session, you experience past life regression, exploration between lifetimes, self-healing performed by your subconscious, release of trapped trauma, and answers to your most important life questions. Your higher self has a message for you and is here to help you and guide you on this life journey. Book a session today with Jennifer Mitchell at thesoulexperiences.com.